So I recently played Pimp My Ride the game, and it was arse. It was one of the worst games I've ever played, and it got me thinking, I'd like to play some games I actually enjoy on this channel. And because I'm a big fan of the FromSoft games but haven't really ventured outside them for that sort of challenge, I'm introducing the most difficult games. A playlist where I will play difficult games that aren't FromSoft games because I enjoy them. And watching Exhibit's poorly rendered head nod for 4 days straight nearly broke me. So every now and then I'll do this instead of looking at something awful, so yeah, that's the plan. Anyway, I found one. It's called Prinny, Can I Really Be the Hero? And it's an obscure platforming game from 2009 for the PSP. This game's actually a spin-off of the Disgaea series, which is a turn-based RPG series. I've never played it, but I thought it was worth a mention. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into the video. So the game's story is a bit weird, but it's clearly one of those things you're not supposed to take seriously. You play a creature called a Prinny, who are sinful humans reincarnated as demonic penguins, who explode when they suffer a heavy impact. When your demon lord's ultra dessert gets eaten, a force of 1,000 Prinnies are tasked with remaking it, and the ingredients in that dessert include actual shit. After you've made the poo dessert, you talk to a man called the Flavor Sage, fight his giant chef robot, then it's stolen again by a flying pig man called Sir Sweet, then you're tasked with stealing it back again. It's all a bit strange. However, it doesn't detract from the fact this game is pretty damn good. You start the game with 1,000 lives representing the 1,000 Prinnies. Every time you die, a new Prinny will take their place, and once you lose all of them, it's game over. Now you may think 1,000 lives seems very generous, but considering how hard this game gets, I can see how some people would burn through all of them, especially when playing on the harder mode. This game has easy mode, i.e. normal mode, where you die after 3 hits, and Hell's Finest, where you die after 1. But don't be fooled, easy mode is not easy. I was especially insulted when the game states that this mode is for casual gamers. Casual gamers. It's like it's there to say you've overcome this challenge but you still suck because you weren't playing Hell's Finest. Filthy casual. So this being a platformer, you have all the features you'd expect. Stuff like a jump, a double jump and a dash. However, there are some more unique features, because along with your normal attack, you also have a projectile attack you can use. Now I know projectile attacks aren't anything new to platformers, but what's interesting here is the attack flips your perspective, so a secondary use is viewing what enemies or obstacles are in front of you. You also have a hip pound, which is when you jump up and press down on the D-pad, allowing you to stun enemies. This feature is pretty much vital if you want to beat the bosses, because other than a few rare exceptions, all the bosses have to be stunned if you want to do any actual damage. You can attack the bosses without stunning them, but you do basically no damage and every boss has a 3-minute time limit, so stunning them is critical, and depending on how many skulls are next to their health bar, that's how many stuns are required. So the game is broken up into 10 stages. You get access to 6 at first and the rest are unlocked later on. Now what's interesting is the first 6 can be beaten in any order. This will actually affect the story, change how difficult bosses are, and even other stages will change layout and difficulty depending on what order you do them in. The only stage that isn't affected by this is the lava level, and that's just in a permanent state of insane difficulty. But then again, after stage 4, so is the rest of the game. It wasn't uncommon for me to get stuck on one section for ages. A lot of my gameplay recordings were me on one part for 20 minutes, and this is for a number of reasons. Number 1 is the tricky jumps. This game has times where your double jumps have to be so perfect that there's no room for error. It even has points where you have to double jump, hip pound onto an enemy to negate damage, then jump again for added height. And obviously, the further you get, the more often these jumps appear. On top of this, a lot of them come with level hazards, which are normally these erratically moving fireballs. These can be incredibly hard to read, and killed me over and over again until sheer dumb luck got me through. I assume it's my inexperience with platformers, but I just couldn't get the patterns. I should also mention that the later levels get very busy. This game has a wide variety of enemies. The wiki actually lists 25 different types, and you can be damn sure that later on they use all of them. Annoying flying enemies, cat girls, ghosts, archery girls, robots that shoot spears, invincible jumping corn, ninjas, wood people, and pots that release small children that fly into you. However, despite the difficulty of the stages, the key thing is it's not artificial difficulty. Overall, the difficulty is a perfect balance of making me want to rip my eyeballs out and very rewarding. Also, the stages being relatively short and filled with checkpoints really works in the game's favour. It doesn't make it easy, but it means you're never going to have to do too much backtracking to make up for lost progress. Oh, and the soundtrack is also fire. So the main reason I played this game was for the bosses, and they do not disappoint. Some of them are insanely difficult, and you can lose hundreds of lives on just one. And because the game can be tackled in any order the player sees fit, the difficulty will always change. This normally takes the form of how many times the bosses need to be stunned. However, the really difficult bosses do lie further on, and at this point they will start taking hundreds of lives to beat, and what's nice about this game is it's one of the few that tells you exactly how many times you've died, just to show you how bad you are. In my case, it was 794 times. The final boss in particular deserves his own fucking section on how hard he is, because before my record was 147 deaths in one level. And that is on the boss rush level, where you have to refight 5 bosses. However, on the final boss, I died 198 times. I died more to one boss than 5, and the actual number is higher than 198 because multiple times I rage quit and had to come back on a previous save. The reason he's so hard is 1, he's the only boss with 2 phases, and in the second phase, he has 25 predetermined attacks that you have to learn like the back of your hand. Secondly, he's the only boss who can't be stunned for increased damage. You have to slowly whittle away at his health while avoiding attacks and keeping within the 3-minute time limit. Normally, that never factors in, but in this fight, if you want a hope of winning, then you have to be damaging him at every single opportunity. All while he's doing attacks that can and will knock you off the arena all the fucking time. It can be infuriating when you're on a good run, only to be knocked off at full health. However, as mentioned, when you die, you respawn in the boss fight. So you're back in action literally instantly, and it helps ease a lot of unneeded frustration. I mean, I was still angered to an extreme degree, but the fact I never had to redo the stage did help. Also, his boss theme absolutely slaps, and it's probably one of my favourite final boss themes ever. Now, the game is not without a few issues. The main one is actually saving the game. You see, you can collect spirit orbs to access NPCs called managers. The managers in this game all have different features, like restarting the game or listening to the music, but also saving the game. You get the blue orb to unlock the save manager from the first boss, and you have to use it on the blue soul. However, the game never really points you in the right direction. It's not hard to figure out, but it's also not very clear. And if you're an eager player starting the stages immediately, then you're at serious risk of losing your progress should you shut down the game before you activate the blue orb. I remember starting this game and having to redo the first level over and over, and then having to look at a guide online to figure out what I was doing wrong. The other orbs being obscure is fine because they're collectibles, but for a feature as vital as saving, I think it should have been a bit clearer. Also, music would sometimes cut out in boss fights. I put this down to the emulator, not the actual game, but it still was something that put a downer on my experience. Overall, this game is great fun. Extremely difficult, but great fun. I'd recommend it to anyone who likes challenging games or just platformers in general, because it really is very good. It can be very button mashy at times, but if you don't mind RSI, you'll enjoy it. Ranking the difficulty as a whole, it would be above Pursuit Force, but lower than Dark Souls 3 and Sekiro. About on par with Dark Souls 1, because some of those bosses are up there with Manus. And I should mention that this ranking is solely based on my opinion and how much I struggled with the game. Anyway, if you liked the video, feel free to leave a like, comment and subscribe, and if you have any games that suit this criteria, then just let me know in the comments.